Okay, looks like we're live. Nice. Nice, nice. All right. So yeah, I'm just gonna go through what I'm gonna do in this live stream, just for those who are watching the recording in the future. And yeah, let's begin. So this is gonna be the end result of what I'm gonna try to do, and I'm gonna try to do this in 30 minutes. So I'm gonna time myself, and we're gonna try to get something like this, but with this character here. So very similar body types already. And just to mention, I've already modeled a lot of these what we call traits. So this particular jumper here, you can see it's very similar to this one. And this beanie here, this is a trait that already exists. So what I want to do is actually want to just reuse some of those traits and probably retexture this jumper here inside of Substance Painter and make it look like this, which should be pretty easy. And we're going to do the mouth section there because this is a trait that I don't believe I've already made. So we're going to make this inside of Maya. I'm going to model this out, and then we're going to do a soft boolean. So you can see here we actually cut into the mesh. So I'm using a soft boolean to do that. So that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to do that inside of Houdini because there's a nice little plugin that actually allows me to do this. And I've got some templates already set up, but it's been a while since I've dove into those templates. So hopefully if everything goes according to plan, it should be relatively easy to do. But in 30 minutes, it's going to be tricky. And finally, we're going to render this thing inside of Unreal. So I'm using Unreal 5, the latest version that just dropped, and I've already got a setup and everything that works quite well. So I believe we can just plug and play with that. So yeah, fingers crossed that that's going to work out as well. So let's dive in, let's get into it. And yeah, so if you guys, anyone that's joining has any questions, just pop it into the chat. Otherwise, you can pop it into the comments or head over to our Discord page, and yeah, I'll actually be happy to answer any questions that you guys have over there. So first of all, we got to set our project. So that's actually the first thing that you get taught when you do 3D inside of Maya, is to set your project. So I'm going to find the correct project. Let's see. Here we go. And I've already got a nice little setup here for my project. So yeah, I just want to set it to this and dive into the latest scene file. You can see I'm quite organized with my scenes. I've got everything organized into different folders. I also have all my different versions. It's always a good idea. So just gonna crack open this guy and we can start modeling. So I'll explain the setup here that I have. So at the moment I've got a camera like this, and this camera is, if I look at it in the viewport, you can see it's all the way over here. It's got a super long focal length, and I'll explain why. I'm trying to create a 3D model using this 2D image, and anytime you have 2D stuff, it always looks very flat. So to kind of get a very similar feeling, you want to have a long lens, and that helps flatten the 3D image a little bit so it doesn't feel so 3D, so it's easier to match the particular shapes. So that's why I have a long focal length there. And what I've done is I've sort of lined up the camera to the model that I have, and you can see the lineup is quite close. So I'm being very faithful to the original 2D image, with a few exceptions. Of course, there's like some areas here which I didn't think needed to be so close, so that's why I haven't exactly matched all of it up. But that's to explain kind of what I'm doing. That's sort of what I'm doing there. But yeah, just to go back to this reference image, so we need this beanie, which we already have here, so that's perfect. So that's already been modeled, and it's already in my Houdini template, so I don't need to actually remodel this. It's the mouth that we need to do. But I also want to see the eyes as well. So first thing I want to do is just swap out this reference image for this one that I have here. So if I go here, I've got all my source images here, so I'll just need to move this particular image over to my source images in my Maya project, and then we can load that in. So I'm making sure I'm working in a project structure because that's very important, I think, especially when you're doing a lot of different stuff. You definitely want to make sure you stay very organized. So if I come over to here, friends, and this is the one I want. Just going to move this over to my source images folder, and you can see it's popped up over there. So I'll swap that guy out, and we can see we need those swirly eyes. So in here I already have some setup, so initial setup. So I'll hide this particular set of eyes, and I believe this is the dazed eyes. Yeah, so you can see it's already there, and I've already modeled that particular trait. So in the mouth here I can see, okay, I don't believe I have this particular trait here. I don't even know what this particular trait's called, but that's not that important right now. So I'll hit 3, smooth the eyes, and actually use what I like to use to do the mouth is I would actually always use quad draw, so I can actually draw on top, and that'll save me a little bit of time. So with the clothes, I just have the default clothes at the moment, which is fine. Let's see, maybe the sweater. No, that's not the one. I think it's just the default clothes, because this looks like it lines up quite well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use the quad draw now and draw on this face. But the first thing I need to do is actually I need a base mesh that's high enough resolution so we get a nice, I guess, a nice curvature. Because if I quad draw on top of this at the moment, it's going to give me some weird curvature. It's basically gonna just project the mesh, and you'll have this harsh line there. So I'm gonna duplicate this out, and I'm gonna smooth this head, just a few divisions. Let's give it like 3 divisions. So this is high res enough, and I don't need this stuff for now, so I'll hide all that. Hide all this stuff there. Okay, so now we just have this high res mesh. And delete the history. Let's make this bad boy live, and yeah, now we can quad draw on top of this. I'm just going to double check that my audio is coming through and everything's working. Yep, perfect. Alright, so go to our modeling toolkit, we go to our quad draw, and then I can just zoom in here and just quad draw. So I don't need this, so I can close this panel out, get me some space back. So this should be relatively easy to quad draw, so I'm just gonna do that. And you know what, maybe I'll leave those for now and just draw across this entire surface like this. Probably don't even need this guy, because I can, once I'm done, I can just fill that in easily just by doing this. So we have this additional detail there now. Probably add some extra there as well, so you can do something like this. And I'm using 2D pan zoom to get around without affecting my camera. So do this here, so I can move this a little bit further up, so when I smooth it, it looks a bit nicer. And yep, everything's looking good. Hold down shift. That's my favorite little thing with quad draw. You can see you can hold down shift to smooth out this surface very easily. So I can hold down shift and click. We get that nice little smoothing. And yeah, I'm trying to be quite faithful, but I don't want to spend too long on this as well, because I know it's not the most important thing, and probably not the most interesting thing as well. But when you're doing this kind of work, sometimes I feel like it's important to be precise. Okay, so this looks pretty good so far. And then I can just hold down tab and extrude these bits out. So extrude all these bits out, and at the end I'll add additional topology to help support these shapes. So I think I can just do this, make sure it's in the middle, and I'll probably add some here as well, so I can get that nice curvature. So come around and click on that. Cool. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on this modeling side. Almost there. This is why a lot of people kit bash these days because, man, even just modeling something like this, you know, it takes a little bit of time. But yeah, I'm happy with how this looks now. So I guess we can just extrude from here. So what I'll do is I'll turn off the live surface, and I no longer need this head, but I'll just keep it there until I extrude out. And actually what I want to do is not just extrude outwards, but I want to extrude inwards as well. So we actually have a little bit of thickness either way, because we're going to use a soft boolean like I mentioned inside of Houdini. So if I extrude this now, I can give it some thickness outwards, and this become our cutter object. And actually what I can do is also come here and grab all this stuff here, and I just want to extrude inwards like that. Not too far in, just a little bit in, just enough so that we have a little bit of a difference in the surface. Because again, if I look at this reference image, you can see we're actually not extruding it that far inwards. So, and I can use some of what I've already done as a guide for how far in I should be extruding. So let's see, we've got the mouth here and the mouth sad. You can see we're not even extruding in that much with this, and it's got a little bit of a nice round look to it. So I kind of want to recreate that a bit. So just hit 3 and you can see, okay, it's a little bit rounded. So what I'll do is I probably will move this. Actually, I'm quite happy with that. I'm not too fussed about how it's actually rounding out. I think if anything, I need to add some contain edges just so we don't lose, it doesn't get too soft around here. So that might be a concern, because if I'm looking through this camera again, render cam, nope, projection cam, yeah, this one. You can see if I hide it, this quite sharp, these bits that connect. But when I hit 3, everything gets really soft. So that's something I probably don't want. So I definitely will come in here, add some contain edges, slide this down. I'll just use the insert edge lip tool. Just click, click, click. And this will help contain these edges, so we won't get that. Yeah, we won't have that really soft edge. So yeah, that's much better, I think. Cool. I mean, I'm happy with this. I don't think we need to be too precise with this. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it looks once we do the cut. So actually, I'm going to test this out. So this becomes our cutter object. So I'll just cutter, just name this cutter. I'm not sure what this piece is actually, this particular mouth trait's called, but we can look it up later. So what I'll do is I'll take this and I'll reuse this head, and what I'll do is I'll try to use this soft boolean plugin that you can actually use, and that's actually it's a plugin I think you can get online. So let's see if I can open a web page to it, because yeah, soft boolean Houdini, it's one that you can get off just Gumroad, I believe. Yeah, it's just the Gumroad plugin, and you know, it doesn't cost that much. It's like $30, but what it can do is it's pretty awesome. There's some videos explaining how it all works, but it's actually using Houdini engine, and it's linking to Maya, so I can actually use soft booleans in here to test things out. So if I do this little cut here, it's complaining, it's giving me a traceback error, says there's no such thing as Houdini asset, and that's probably because I need to load the Houdini engine plugin. There we go, Houdini engine, load that guy. Should be able to do the soft boolean now. And man, it's already been almost 15 minutes, so time is flying by. I'm running out of time already. Let's see, I'm gonna do soft boolean. It's done some weird stuff, but you can see the mesh kind of there. And let's see if I hide the display colors. Okay, there we go. So I can kind of see what's going on, and you can see it's falling apart like the geometry, but there's some soft boolean options that you can use. Add some more cutter divisions, so I have 2 cutter divisions, and if I add 1 more division to the source, it should soften things out a bit, so it's not as harsh now, you can see. And then we can also come in here and add some filleting. So at the moment the fillet radius is pretty small, but if I increase that to 0.1, should soften out this boolean, so you can see the edges are much softer. But you can see how it's like it's just giving some really nasty results with the larger fillet radius, and that's probably too big, this fillet radius. So we'll do something like 0.2. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so that's a little bit better, and that's probably kind of what I want, just to get something like this. It's a little bit softer, but not too soft. So I think this is going to work, and you can see it lines up quite close to what we have in the reference, and that's the important thing. Okay, so I believe we're ready to go now. We just have to export this this cutter object as as a new piece that we can use. And one thing I need to check though is what this particular trait is. So let's pull out our OpenSea. All right. So if I go to OpenSea.io, and I know this is alien friend, and the particular number is 1229. So if we go search 1229 here, should be able to find that particular alien friend. So I can find the name of the trait, because I'm staying very organized here. So the name of the mouth is sewn shut. Okay, so mouth sewn shut cutter, and yeah, let's drag this into the mouth group, so you can see we have our little cutter objects for all these different objects. So this one will be the mouth sewn shut trait. So I want to export this guy as well now over to Houdini so that we can use this. So first thing I'll do is I'll duplicate this over, and I'm using USD because why not? USD is an amazing format to transfer between different software, and yeah, I've been using USD for a long time, so I'm going to continue using USD for that, and just export that to USD. In this mouse section, set it to USD export. You can see I have all these different mouths that I exported. I'm just going to call this one sewn shut, and then yeah, export this guy. So we'll boot up Houdini in the meantime, and then I'll show you the setup that I have there, and hopefully it's just a matter of plug and play at that point, because we have all these other traits, so it should be relatively easy. The only thing we need to do is change the color of this particular sweater, so that should be very easy to do. Okay, so I've got Houdini open here. I have to scale this down to fit the stream, but there we go. Should fit now. And if I open this, I want to find my particular project that I've set up already. So here, in here, and in the mesh, Houdini, and I want to grab, let's see, in the hip folder, open the latest version. And Houdini has amazing support for USD because they have an entire context built around it. It's probably the best support of USD I've seen in any software that's out in the market at the moment. I'm sure Pixar has their very own amazing software, but as far as I know, out in the market, Houdini is probably the most fleshed out USD support of anything. So you can see here I've got this pretty simple network. It's not too crazy. It's made sure to keep it nice and clean, but essentially what I'm doing is just subdividing these pieces in specific amounts, and then also just doing these kind of soft booleans that you see here. But the neat thing is, if I go over to my lops context, here is how I'm loading in all these different objects. So if I come to this mouth section here, I can actually just duplicate this setup and just paste this here, and then just name this to my new trait, sewn shut, and I can also rename this sewn shut, and here I have some attributes that I'm setting, how much the cutter, whether this object is a cutter object or not, and how much to fillet it by, because if you remember inside of Maya, when we did the booleans, we had this little fillet option. Where is it? This fillet radius to adjust how soft the boolean is. So I have this same settings here because it's the same plugin that you use in Houdini as it is the one you use in Maya. So all these values I'm just reading inside of SOP network. So if you guys know anything about Houdini, you can read these attributes and then reuse them to do cool things. So next thing I need to do is just load in this particular file. So come here, grab this sewn shut version, and you can see it show up there. And I'll just plug this into my setup down here. And there we go. So if I come, and here's the cool thing, if I come over here, you can see I can select all these different traits. So let's go up one level. So at the moment I'm reading in all these particular traits here. So the head is just a default head. That's cool. The clothes, I just want it to be the default clothes because that's what the sweater is. The hat, we have no hat. So, oh, no, actually it's the beanie. We're using the beanie as the hat. For the eyes, I have the dazed eyes, so that's correct. The mouth, at the moment it's the gangster, but we want this to be sewn shut. So, and it's not showing up here. No, that's the mouth. There we go. That's not showing up there for whatever reason. Could be, let's see, I have sewn shut there, so it could just be a refresh issue in the in this particular mouth section here. So see if I can change it up and see if it shows up. No, it's still not showing up. Sometimes if it doesn't update, I'll have to, usually what I do is I'll just delete the setup and then just undo, and hopefully it just refreshes here. Sad gangster. It's still not showing up here for whatever reason, so let's take a look and see if we can identify why. So sewn shut, mouth sewn shut, it's all there, but this switch for whatever reason can't read the sewn shut. Actually, I believe I need to add this in. It's been a while since I made this setup, but that's, yeah, I think I need to actually add in the sewn shut. Add in this particular option so that we can switch over to the sewn shut. Okay, so that should work. Let's give this a shot now. So if I come all the way up and I switch this to sewn shut, it should, yep, there we go. It's switched to my particular, and you can see it's kind of off at the moment. So if I recall correctly, I actually need to align this to the grid. So at the moment it's aligned to the camera like this. So I actually have to align this cutter object to the grid before I export it. So what I'll do is I'll have to actually zero out this head information. So actually, if I take this and I zero this out, it should go, yeah, it should be aligned to the grid now, you can see, but it's no longer aligned to the model itself, but that's kind of what I want. So we realign this in the Houdini setup. So if I duplicate this out, and let's just re-export this one, export selection, sewn shut, and then we can switch back over to the Houdini setup and just reload. So if I come in here, I can just hit reload on this and that should update. So yeah, beautiful. Now it's all lined up the way it should be. So the background is default. Yep, everything else looks good. So this already looks like it matches our traits on our character. So if we switch back over to this context, you can see it's already done the soft boolean for us, and it's already done the bevel. So you can see the bevels kind of you know, might be a little bit too extreme with the amount of cutting. So I think 0.1 was too much, so we can set this to something a little bit smaller like I had before, 0.02 or maybe 0.03, but let's see how 0.02 looks. Yeah, there we go. So 0.02 works much better and it's cutting into the mesh. So I think that's pretty much it with the model. So I can just, from here on, I can just export. So let's go to here And in here, I've already set it up. So I just type in the number, save to disk, and it should already have a version exported for me. So now I don't need this soft boolean anymore. I don't need this anymore. Actually, let me undo until before I zeroed out the head position, because I don't want to lose that. Yep, there we go. Okay, perfect. And I don't need these anymore, and I don't need these anymore. Okay, so I can show these guys again. And let's just save this file as a new version. What I'll do is I'll open up the model that Houdini exported, and we'll just need to do a little bit of cleanup on the UVs, and we should be good to go with the model. So if I go to the Houdini folder, output, you can already see because of the setup, it's already exported. So I can drag this guy into here, delete the namespaces. Yeah, I think I'm almost running out of time. So it's actually pretty crazy how fast the time passes. So yeah, it was meant to be 30 minutes, but I don't think it's going to be 30 minutes. I think it's going to be closer to like an hour, but let's see how it go. Okay, so the face here, I need to clean up the UVs. So let's open up our UV texture editor, texturing, UV texture editor. And the one thing I need to clean up is the mouth. So this area here, you can see there's some areas that aren't sewn together. So if I look at this, you can see there's areas there that aren't sewn together nicely. So what I want to do is just make sure I sew those edges. So I can just come in here, grab all these edges here, and I can just sew all these edges together. And one last thing I want to do is just kind of unwrap this area a little bit so it's not as stretched. So I'll just select kind of a few UVs around, UVs around here, and let's just do an unfold, and you should see it just unfold a little bit like that, and that's enough. So this is done, and everything else should be good to go. So all my UVs are already set up because I've already modeled and UV these in a specific way. The last thing is to organize these into texture sets. So the eyes look like they belong with the rest of the head, but the hat looks like it overlaps. So this beanie here should be in its own UV set, and the clothes look like it should be in its own UV set as well. So to do that, I just use my materials here. That's how I like to just make my UV sets. So I'll just make something here, and I'll call this head, and I'll assign this to the head and the eyes. So that's one UV set. Then I'll make another Lambert, call this body, and I'll assign that to the body. And finally, I'll make one called hat, and I'll assign that to there. And just to be sure that they're all set up correctly, I'll just give them a little bit of a color just to visually confirm that it's all, it's all assigned correctly. Yep, that's perfect. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's everything. Yeah, let's export this guy now. Just had to verify that it's all good. And we go, I'll save this file as, let's make a new folder and give the name, and just check out the convention. So that's the naming convention that I have set up already. Come here. Yeah, there we go. Save. And finally, let's do an export, and let's export to FBX, because we're going to bring this into not only Substance, we're going to bring it into Houdini as well. So FBX is the texture, is the format, I mean, to go with. So here, and just paste this here, export selection. And we can open up Substance Painter and do the textures, and it should be really quick because I've already got all my textures set up. It looks like Jamie's in the stream, so yeah, give him a man a kudos, give him a man Jamie Chung, a shout out. Alright, so looks like there's a newer version, but I don't want that because I've got the lifetime version because I bought it on Steam before they changed the subscription model. So yeah, I hated that it's a subscription model just like everybody else. Very against that, but what can you do, eh? Let's crack open my textures. So usually what I do is I start from, I have a file that I already have, which I start from. So texture, painter, and I always start from this guy. So this is the original one that I made. And I've already saved out all my smart materials, so I don't need to do anything. I just drag and drop my smart materials in, and we're good to go. Cool. So first thing I do is actually replace. So I go project configuration, and I'll just select my new mesh that I outputted. And yeah, we can just swap it out and it should look half decent already. So let's test that theory out. Texture output, there we go, this is the one we exported. We'll still have to bake the maps out just to get the nice you know, contact shadows and stuff like that. But you know, just on the get-go, it should look half decent. I mean, the eyes are kind of messed up, but it looks like we should still have some textures. It's still loading. I mean, 4K is pretty big, so let's go give it a second. Probably doesn't help that I'm trying to stream this as well. So I've got OBS and I've got Houdini open as well. Let's close Houdini. Let's save this actually before we close it. Save as, and just make this a new version. Yep, so we can close this guy out. And yeah, you can see like the textures have already applied, so it's not terrible. We just need to do the head texture set. Hey, Dylan's in the house. Hey Dylan, how's it going? Dylan's a good friend of Jamie's, and yeah, just an all-around cool guy. Yeah, we're using the mouth to do the booleans. So sorry if there's a delay, by the way. I know there's a little bit of latency going on the YouTube stream, but yeah, we're using Houdini to do the mouth booleans, but I'm using Unreal to do all the lighting and the rendering. Okay, so let's see. I need to access my smart materials that I've saved. So if I go to texture, painter, materials, you can see I've saved a bunch. I've got one for the hat, so that's what I'll do. I'll drag the hat one in. So if I go to hat, and I've even got the right color. So let's see, I think it's the mustard beanie, if I believe. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's the mustard beanie there. So what I can do is I can just drag the mustard beanie material into here. And smart material, yes, let's import it to the project. And then I just want to make sure I don't save over what I've already done. So I'm going to save this as a new file. This is my template file. So let's go file, save as, and go to here, texture, painter, and let's make a new folder here. Friend 1229. All right. Give it a minute. It's just thinking. I mean, 4K textures is painful, painfully large to try to work with. And YouTube's giving me all kinds of errors, like my internet's like crap or something, which it probably is. In all fairness, I've got not the best internet. It's been cutting out lately, so apologies if it's all cutting out and slow and choppy and the audio is really bad. Actually, how is the audio since you're in the house, Dylan? I don't know if it's coming out okay. Awesome, nice. Gabriel's got a question. Is this Unreal Engine? No, this is Substance Painter. So if I just drag this bar down, you might be able to see the title. But it is Substance Painter, and yeah, I'm just trying to get the texture of this character ready and prepped so that we can go into Unreal and then just render this out. But yeah, you can see like this. I have some issues here with the old baked textures. So I probably need to just rebake this and fix that up. So if we go bake texture maps, and I can probably just reuse the default settings and just bake. You know, baking always takes a little bit of time, so you know, we can just sit here and chat for a bit as this thing bakes. You know, because you want to bake 4K so that you don't have to bake again later on. I mean, maybe that's a film thing, but we always bake to like a pretty high resolution. I'm sure when guys in VFX are working on, you know, Ant-Man and Black Panther and stuff, they're baking like maybe 8K maps and stuff. And I heard Black Panther had a crazy number of, you know, UDIMs. So, you know, in VFX we don't use texture sets, we use UDIMs. But I heard Black Panther had like UDIMs in the hundreds, which is insane. And they're all like 4K maps, I think, or they were like 8K or something ridiculous. So I can't imagine like having hundreds of 4 to 8K maps for one character. But you know, that's film for you. I'm sure Dylan knows all about it. How crazy film can be. Okay, so I mean, it's taken a while to bake these maps out still. $14 out of 21. I know when guys in film hit bake on the texture maps, they just have a coffee break or a cigarette or something because it takes so long. Thankfully, you only have 3 texture sets. I can't imagine if this was like 100 something UDIMs. Probably takes the entire day to bake out these maps. And I mean, my graphics card isn't terrible either. I'm rocking a 3070, so it's not the best, but it definitely isn't the worst. So I can't imagine if you had a worse graphic card and slower performance on the GPU, it'd be pretty gnarly. Okay, so let's let this load and hopefully things will look a little bit better on the face, because it looks like the mouth is still not updated. This is the worst part of doing 3D, really. I don't know if it's as exciting as watching people speed paint, because there's just times you just have to wait. There's nothing you can do about it. Whereas speed painting, it's so close to real-time work. You know, every stroke is live, so. How long have I been using Houdini for? That's what Dylan's asking. Man, I've been using Houdini not that long, maybe since the end of 2018 or 2019 maybe. I think it was mid 2019, I think, but I got really heavy into it end of 2019, and I used Houdini for a very niche set of things, so not like a lot of other people. I mean, I was using it a little bit for environments, and because we're, you know, at Luma Pictures, we were predominantly using USD for everything. So and because Houdini is like the best program in my opinion for interacting with USD assets, so we were doing a lot of, you know, environment scattering and stuff like that in Houdini. And yeah, I've been using it since then. But yeah, again, it's very niche stuff. Like I'll use it for soft booleans. I'll use it for, you know, USD stuff, like USD type template stuff, like I'm doing here. But I can see it being very useful, especially for generative NFT projects and stuff like that. If you guys are interested in that at all. But something's wrong with this beanie. It looks very shiny. So I think there's something going on with my. If I check out my roughness, yeah, there's something going on with the roughness. I think I need a new layer for base roughness. So if I put that there and I just have this as my base roughness, probably need this to be much lower. There we go, that's a little bit better. So 0.7 is maybe a good number. I'm not sure how rough this beanie should be. I do have some fur which I've exported for the fuzz on the hat, so on the beanie, so I'm gonna try to use that and add a little bit of the sheen to that, but maybe I'll have this at 0.6. Felt like a little bit nicer. Yeah, super cool. I've never touched it. It looks fun though, says Dylan. It's pretty fun, and you know, I've heard through the grapevine that you're quite the technical artist, so I have no doubts that you will be at home inside Houdini, because yeah, it is a very technical program, but you know, it's so powerful that I think even if you learn like a small subset of it just for like doing small little things, that it's incredibly powerful for, you know, whatever it is that you want to do. If it's specific to animation, I mean, you could probably use it to do maybe rigid body simulations or soft body sims. I've used it to do a spider web. Actually, I've been trying to finish a shot that I worked on for a long time, which is just using one of the free Spider-Man rigs, the Spider-Verse one. And I had this moment where I was like, oh, I can animate the web by hand, or I can just try to use Houdini to do a little bit of simulation on the spider web. And yeah, I think it's good for that. But yeah, let's quickly finish this texturing off so I can hop in Unreal, because I think that's what everybody really wants to see. So the mouth needs a little bit of work because we've lost the dark, and the eyes, we've lost the dark on that. So I'll come here. So the smooth skin, no, that's not necessary, so I can delete that. And I don't need this. I don't need any of this stuff actually. So with the eyes, it looks like I just need to select the mesh. And that should fix that. And let's see. Actually don't need this here, so I can delete that. And finally, I've got like you know, I've got some vertex colors which I've generated from Houdini for this, so I can actually just select this inner part of the mouth and just have that be the dark texture. So looks like everything's kind of working now for the face. So the last thing to do is to get the clothes to kind of match this reference. So you can see it's just white and red. So I can probably just switch these colors around. So if I go to the body, it's so handy because I've already done a lot of these traits for this particular collection, this NFT collection. And just so people know, I'm doing this for people in the community. You know, I'm just making these kind of free 3D versions of their NFTs, just so, you know, kind of giving back to the community. And I think everybody always really loves this sort of stuff, and there's nothing like getting free shit. So let's see the colors. So let's see, I've got red, and looks like I've got the black stripes. So I wonder if there's an easy way to change the color of the stripes. So that's going to be an interesting thing to try to solve. So it looks like the stripes are going to be black regardless of what I do. So this could be a problem. Let's see if we can, instead of multiplying, we can add. So that should make it white. So that kind of works, but this base color being red, I think we need to swap the lines around though. That's going to be a bit of a pain. So yeah, I need to think about how to do this, because this is actually a little bit more painful. I think if I just offset the Y axis, there we go. Actually not as hard as I thought it was going to be, but yeah, the line's sort of there. I mean, that kind of works, surprisingly. Maybe 0.3, 2.3. This surprisingly worked out really easily. It's a little bit too bright as well, the color. So I wonder if there's a way I can dim it down a little. Maybe I can increase the base color. So I'll make this a little bit brighter. And then I can just lower the color overall, the brightness overall. So that will probably work. So here I can add a filter, a special filter to just adjust the levels. Actually, I think there's a levels operation already. So let's see, we can bring the overall levels down. That should fix it up. Okay, so it's not so bright now. It felt like it was like fluoro white, which it's not that white. So yeah, I think this maybe even a little bit further down, and then I can just come back and I can just boost this up a little, 0.7, just to get a little bit closer to the color. And that looks pretty good to me. Cool, I think everything is actually done. We're good to go to Unreal almost. So if I just save this, yep, let's just save this file and we can do an export, and then should be good to go into Unreal. So before we export, I'll just boot up Unreal because it sometimes takes a little bit of time to load. That's the one thing, it's so quick at doing everything, but it's just really slow at loading stuff sometimes. So yeah, there we go. But I don't want to open it just yet, actually, because Unreal takes a lot of GPU, like, you know, GPU resource. So if I have Substance open, it does not play well with Unreal. So at least Unreal just doesn't like it. There's been times where it's just completely crashed my computer. My GPU just, you know, my whole screen blacks out because I've run out of GPU memory. So we do export textures and everything looks good here. It's already all set up, pre-set up. So I can just make, yeah, this is perfect. I can just hit export and we can open the output directory and see all these maps being exported live. But yeah, it's been quite the smooth process now, because I've done all the heavy lifting early on, setting up the cameras and making sure everything is consistent, so I can pump this out now. And imagine, like, if you were to create a generative collection, you'd have to approach it in a very similar way, being very organized and having things grouped in certain ways. But you probably need to go to another level where you can automatically, you know, generate the textures as well and automatically export and render. So that's a different level. And I've got a little bit of insight into that because one of the guys has been generous enough to show me how he's done it on one of his projects. And his project is, I believe it's Croaks. So by McGill. Hopefully this is not a scam one. Yeah, this looks like the legitimate one. So Croaks looks pretty good. I mean, their stuff is quite high quality in comparison to a lot of stuff. And I know McGill is just a really good 3D artist. I don't know him personally, but I've seen his stuff on Twitter and it's really good. Like it looks quite polished in terms of how it looks. So I was quite impressed, and I was very lucky to have the developer actually show me the process, and they did it all inside of Blender, but I guess the approach is very much the same. But this is all like actual 3D geometry rendered on top of one another. You can see the cast shadows, whereas a lot of other, you know, supposedly quote unquote 3D projects are just 2D renders stacked on top of one another, and that's in my opinion, that's a big no-no. If you're going to do a 3D project, you should do it the 3D way. Cool, so it looks like it's all exported. I'll just save it again just to be sure, and we can start to open this project that I've already got. Bring in these textures, bring in the mesh, and just do a render. And yeah, it's so exciting to fly around in Unreal. It's so, the real time of it is just next level. But yeah, let's see what we got going. I think it's loading. It's hard to tell sometimes if it's loading or not. I think it is loading. It's just doing it really slowly in the background. Yeah, this is closer to an hour. I said 30 minutes in the title, but it's definitely closer to the hour. I think maybe talking as well doesn't help. So as I talk through things, I'm definitely splitting my brain capacity, my brain power. I don't think this is loading actually. Let's try double click this again. Usually there's a splash screen, so that's how I tell if it's loading or not. So gotta look out for that splash screen. This is one I've done before already. This is actually my NFT that I own, and because I own the rights to this, that's a very common theme you'll see in Web3 is a lot of these NFT projects actually give you the rights to the particular design that you have, the particular character that you have, so you can do with it what you want. And yeah, that's why I feel comfortable enough to feature this in the live stream. But yeah, loading this file up now. It might take a little bit of time actually, so this could be a bit of a bummer because I haven't actually opened this project in the latest version of Unreal. And yeah, that could be a bit of a bummer in terms of loading this, because it takes a long time. I think it takes like, I would say like, sometimes it takes like 20-30 minutes to open up, but it looks like it's going quick, thankfully. 70% initializing, so we might be lucky. Sometimes, I don't know why, it just takes a lot longer and you just have to wait. I think the live stream is like way behind, by the way, like in terms of latency. I'm gonna have to figure out how to adjust the latency. But yeah, it looks like it's loading up now. It's 83%. You never trust this though. Sometimes it says 83, but you know, you wait like 20 minutes for it to go from 83 to 100. And some days, you know, it says like 20% and it opens in like 2 seconds. There we go. It's opening. That's a good thing. It means we don't have to wait for forever. So just got to give it a second to show. There we go. And now I have to scale this way down. Actually, I think I opened this twice. That could be why it's taking so long. Okay, organize this so you guys can see everything. And yeah, let's see. Hopefully the stream doesn't get really bad. Let's see. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I've got my level set up here. So I'm going to duplicate a level that I already have. And I'm going to start from there. So let's duplicate this level here. And I'll give this a new name. So name it the particular number of the variation that I'm using, and let's open this up. We can see how it looks. So it looks like there's a little bit of going on in terms of the mesh distance fields being regenerated. It looks like it's also probably regenerating some of the textures. So it might actually take a little bit of time to open this up. Yeah, it's definitely taking a little bit of time to load this up. So, I mean, in the meantime, I guess I could show you guys some of the other versions of this that I've created. So if we go here, you can take a look and see. There's probably some. So these are all the ones that I've done so far. And let's go to Unreal. This one's a pretty cool one, I think. Germ render. Let's see. So these are EXRs, so it might be a bit big. You can see this thing's still loading. But yeah, this is one I've done in Unreal as well. It's EXR, so it's pre-comp, so some of the colors have changed since. There's some limitations with Unreal though that I've noticed. So you can see this this kind of flickering that you see here. That's actually because of the emissive nature of some of the materials. Some of these textures are emissive, and it creates this really weird kind of flickering, which, yeah, it's not easy to get rid of. So I actually think I removed it by switching different types of ray tracing global illumination options inside of Unreal. So this is the updated version, and you can see the flickering's kind of way better. We still got a little bit noise because we're using the legacy ray tracing inside of Unreal. I'm just blown away by the fact that Unreal has ray tracing, and that's like, it's insane. That's why all these feature people are trying to switch over to Unreal now, because it's just so good. But there are some issues you can see when I'm playing this back. Some of this bokeh or bokeh or whatever you want to call it, it's disappearing, and then it reappears on the other side. So you can see it just pop back there, and it's kind of weird when you play it back. And it's not really something I don't think you'll notice unless you're looking out for it, but as it plays back, you can see it's doing that really weird popping on and off. And that must be some sort of I think it's because the blur, the depth of field, is a screen space effect, and I guess that's the limitation with the ray tracing inside of Unreal. Is if you're using the real-time ray tracing, it's a lot of the stuff is still, you know, post effects. So like these glows, they're post effects, and yeah, the motion blur is post effect as well. So you don't get actual motion blur and actual blur, and it does make a difference when you're comparing to offline renderers. There's a quality that you get from an offline renderer in terms of the blurring that you struggle to get inside of Unreal. So, but this thing is taking a long ass time to generate. So, I mean, I might not even be able to make it to the end of this by the end of the stream. You know what? I'll stay on until this thing kind of finishes, because it'll finish at one point. But yeah, if you guys are watching a recording, feel free to skip ahead to the part where this actually finishes loading. But yeah, that's kind of one of the trade-offs of having real-time technology, is sometimes it just takes a long time to pre-process a lot of the data. I'm not even sure what it's doing right now. It just says it's preparing mesh distance fields, but that seems like such a vague description of what it is. And I have only a vague idea of what mesh distance fields are, in fact. But yeah, while that's still happening, we can maybe take a look at some of these other. So there's some other things I've done inside of Unreal, and I haven't really seen the daylight yet, but I wonder if this is a good time to show some of this stuff. Yeah. Oh, it's finished. Perfect. Save that. Save the good stuff for next time then, because it looks like it loaded. It's loaded, but it's still loading. There we go. Okay. So now, cool thing is we can move around this viewport real time, which is mind blowing to me. You can see it's like all the lighting and everything. It's all just there. It's pretty amazing. So I want to bring in my own models because I don't want this model here. So just grab this guy and I'll just hit delete. And you can see I've got some fuzz here, which is perfect because it's the same sweater. So the sweater has some fuzz, but I also need to bring in some of the beanie fuzz, and I can just reuse something that I've already got for that. So let's first of all import our mesh. So we've got output. So we've got our character that we've exported there. And static meshes. We've got all these different folders that I've organized. Make a new one here. And just add this into there. It's going to want to use nanite, and I think that's okay. Just a few things I need to make sure that it's doing. So import normals and tangents. And convert the scene, yes. And we don't want to import textures, that's great. Don't create materials, but do search for them. Yep, that's perfect. And yeah, everything else looks pretty good to me. So we can just import all. Yeah, it looks like Dylan's enjoying the real-time, the amazing real-time technology. Maybe at a later date as well, I'll showcase some animated stuff in real time. Just using ABC caches to bring inside of Unreal. So I'm bypassing the whole skeletal rig portion, which is kind of a pain. But yeah, now I can actually bring in this character, and you can see it looks pretty good. So what I want to do is actually just reuse some of the materials that I have. So let's see if I can find some materials that already exist and just assign it to this guy. So looks like each one of these has their own kind of material groups. So I'll just duplicate some of this stuff and I'll make a new folder here. This folder's grouped to the wrong thing, so see if I can move this up to there. Move here. Then I want to grab some of these materials that I duplicated and just drag those into the folder there, this friend folder there. Cool. So next thing is to bring in some of these textures. So you can see if I open this material instance, I just have these texture inputs here that I can just drag and drop my texture maps to swap out this particular texture map. And I've already set up my own master material. So this is just an instance of that master material. I'm not going to go through the whole creating master material process. That's way too long. But what I can do is show you guys how I swap out the textures. So if I go to this textures folder, you can see there's more folders. So here I can drag in my textures. Where's my texture folder gone? Let's see. I had it open before. There we go. Here's my texture outputs. So what I'll do is I'll grab these guys, drag them all into there, and just let it load into the editor. And I've got a little script to actually rename these, so it's got a little prefix. And just to be like very, I guess, to be very pedantic about my naming, I'm gonna just run that script to rename some of this stuff. That's one thing that I've found hard to find information on is, what's the convention for, gaming stuff? Because, you know, in VFX and in animated features, we have conventions for everything. But it's very hard to find that kind of industry information just online. And the way things are named and the way things should be grouped ideally. I know everybody does it differently, but, you know, some people do it better than others, and some people have some standards, I guess, that exist throughout the industry. So I've got this script which I've saved in my own little notes, and I managed to just scramble my way into writing this script, but it works well enough so that I can just run the script, and you'll see that these names are going to have a prefix of T underscore, so that it's really easy to search inside of the content browser. I can just type T and then asterisk or whatever, and it'll show everything with this. So you can see it's renamed it all. The last thing I need to do is I need to turn off sRGB for my texture maps, because for my occlusion roughness maps, because these aren't supposed to be sRGB. They're data maps. So this guy here, turn off sRGB and save, and I should be pretty good to go now in terms of swapping out the textures. So if we come back to our material, what I can do is I can assign the body to the body and the head to the head, and I need to make an additional one here, so I'll duplicate the head. Actually, the head is using a subsurface scatter material, so the hat doesn't actually have subsurface scatter, so I'll just rename this to hat, and I should probably also rename this number here and rename this one and rename this one. So the hat I can drag onto the head there. So I'll start off with the hat. We can go to our textures that we imported into Unreal and scale this down a bit. It's quite hard to work with limited space. And here we go. Here's the hat base color. Here's the hat metallic, and the hat roughness, and finally the hat normals map. And yeah, I can just hit save, and if I close this out, you can see there we go with the hat. And that doesn't look quite right to me for whatever reason. Yeah, not sure. I'm gonna have to look in. Maybe I put the wrong map into something. So let's go back to this material actually. Just double check that we've got all the right maps. Let's see, that's the body, that's the hat. And this one is the head. Okay, so I got the wrong normals map, that's why. So yeah, there we go. That's much better. Cool. And I also have a, I've got a fuzz for the hair, which I've got somewhere. So I just need to find out which particular variant of this NFT that has the beanie, and I can reuse that. So let's go here. So which one has the beanie? This one here, 9755. So we go to 9755. Should be able to see maybe in the static meshes. 9755. There we go. Here's the groom. So I can probably just duplicate this groom and just drag this over to my new folder. I can rename this groom, and then finally drag this groom in and just zero it out, and you can see there it is. So if I deselect, very subtle, but you can see there's a very subtle fuzz. So it's one of those things that you might not see it, but you might feel it. So yeah, and it's like the shirt, you can see the little fuzz on top. It's very hard to notice, but I think it does add a little bit of something. So if I actually get rid of this fuzz, you'll see just there's something missing. And I think having that little fuzz, that peach fuzz, actually really helps. It catches some light. And we should swap out the other textures for the face so it doesn't look so silly. But if I come back to here, to the materials, where's this material at actually? Did I save this in the wrong folder? I think this is in the wrong folder. So I actually renamed the wrong the wrong asset. 5608. Asset already is this 5608. Interesting. Yeah, I think I messed something up, but that's okay. I think there's a clash in this naming here. Go back to this folder. I have to fix up redirectories. So I fix up the naming and then I can rename this. There's something about clashing names in Unreal, just doesn't let you do it. So now I should be able to rename the original template versions. Good thing I didn't swap these out, because that would have affected the already finished version of the other model that I've already done. Yeah, perfect. So here with the sweater, we'll swap these out for the sweater texture. So in fact, I'll open the head as well, so we can do both at the same time. And we find the textures, and yeah. So this is the body, so the sweater, and I'll just replace these maps. So it's really this simple. Once you get into Unreal, you're just swapping maps out and moving lights around and stuff. So I can save this, and then the head down here somewhere. Yeah, this. Drag this there, this one there, and normals map. Yep, there we go. And then this is the scattering map to add a subsurface scatter. Cool. So the last thing to do is to assign the materials onto the correct parts of the body. So I think I've assigned the old ones there, but if I drag the new ones on now, ta-da, there we go. This guy's ready to go. So the background is something I want to change as well. So I don't need that particular, this backdrop, this camo backdrop, because that's a special one, a special trait. So that one's not in this particular one here. And I want to set this to this pink. So I think I already have a pink background that exists. I just want to make sure that it is the same pink background. So if I go back to that particular alien friend, let's see. Yep, the background is pink, and I've already made a pink background because I've done that previously. And you can see there's a that's a red one. Let's see, which one's the pink one? This one apparently is pink, but it doesn't look very pink to me, but it's all good. So I'll swap out all these backdrops. Swap it for the pink, and then all these shapes here, I'll just put this pink one as well onto that. And lastly, we just wanna make sure that I have the camera view, and then we can just hit render on this bad boy. So if I go to sequences, you can see I've got all these sequences set up already, and this is just for the camera. So I can just come in here, go to the cinema camera, and it's got the blur and everything on there already. And yeah, I think this is good to go. I can render. So I'll just do a quick save. So save the current level. Yeah, just Control Shift S, and should be able to just go to the cinematic browser, render queue, and I already have a preset render settings. So let's load in my preset, and I just want to save this into a particular directory. So go to Unreal, make a new directory. Whoops. I think I hit F1. Don't you just hate that when you hit F1 on the keyboard and it opens the help? I don't think that's helped anyone. Just hurt people. Let's paste this, make a new folder for this. Yeah, I'm like super anal when it comes to organization, because you just get that beaten into you when you're working feature film, when you work in films. Everything else looks pretty good. So these are all my settings, if anyone's ever curious. I use EXRs, and I just set my anti-aliasing settings like this. But, you know, I'm not the best person to go through all these kind of settings. You know, I think William Faucher, or Fauché, I think is how you pronounce it. He's the guy, you know, he's the guy to teach you about all this stuff. And I should be able to just hit render, and you can just sit back and relax, let Unreal do its thing. Shouldn't be that long, because yeah, it's Unreal after all, and it's just one frame, so it should be relatively quick to render. But I am rendering a very large size. So this file, I believe, is I think it's 2160 by 2160 resolution, and I'm rendering at 200% and downscaling. So I think the size is even larger than that. So we're talking like almost, I think like 4K basically. So I'm rendering like maybe even a bit larger than 4K, like a 4K square image, and it's downscaling it back to 2K. And that's just to try to cram in as many details, and also to help the anti-aliasing, so that the aliasing is not as it's not as aliased, I guess. Yeah, you get a little bit of a smoother edge. And yeah, what I do is I do engine warm-up frames, so that it's, you know, processing all the textures in the background, making sure that it's loading into the buffer, and yeah, then just sampling multiple different time samples, I guess, temporal samples, what you call it, and that actually helps to fix some of the aliasing that you get. But yeah, I think it's from here on out, it's pretty much a done deal, you know. It should be more or less what you see in the viewport. So I might actually end the stream here, because I don't think there's really any point just waiting around for this thing to render. You know, I've cranked the settings up, so it might take a little bit of time, might take like 10 or so minutes,